as they step up a contingency plan for a potential attack against Iran. The Ministry of Defense say the US may decide to accelerate plans for strikes against key Iranian facilities.
And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places.
The sound of drums matching the words of the popular demands in Syria. Bashar, your turn is next. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets of Homs, repeating the demands they have been making for more than 7 months. They want their president to go. They want international protection and a no-fly zone to be imposed, taking a direct aim at the Arab League for inaction to end the unrest. This banner asks, did the Arab Initiative stop our bloodshed? Protesters in Kafr Inbil in Idlib carried banners calling for urgent help and intervention. And in Kafr Ruma, men, women, old and young defied the brutal crackdown.
Thanks for joining us for CBN News Midday. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Lori Johnson. Israel appears to be getting ready for a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has talked to his cabinet about military action. All this comes as new evidence surfacing that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Chris Mitchell has the story now from Jerusalem.
Israeli intelligence believes Iran is continuing its pursuit of nuclear weapons, and Israeli leaders are talking more about what they need to do about it. To some analysts, the rhetoric from Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, indicates Israel could be laying the foundation for a possible preemptive military strike against Iran's nuclear program. For example, in comments earlier this week, Netanyahu warned Iran posed a grave threat to the world, the Middle East, and Israel. He also said, a security philosophy cannot rely on defense alone. It must also include offensive capabilities, which is the very foundation of deterrence.
And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth.
Our policy is guided by two main principles. The first is, if someone comes to kill you, rise up and kill him first. And the second is, if anyone harms us, his blood is on his own hands. In the meantime, the International Atomic Energy Agency will release a report next week on Iran's nuclear program. The report is expected to show Iran is trying to build a nuclear bomb. One other item drew the attention of many observers. Israeli Air Force planes recently conducted a training exercise that simulated attacks against the Mediterranean island of Sardinia. The exercise lasted several days. Sardinia is approximately the same distance from Israel as parts of Iran.
And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over.
Now, if the U.S. or Israel, if they plan to attack, military strategists, some of them say it has to happen soon. Why is that?
Well, primarily it's a strategic military problem of cloud cover over the nuclear sites in Iran. When the rainy and snowy season comes in Iran, as it's going to do in just a matter of a very few weeks, then it's militarily much more difficult to pull something like that off against a number of targets in Iran.
Now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been warning people for years, warning the world international community for years about Iran's nuclear threat. Why do you think so little has been done?
Well, that is the central question, and the thing is that Iran has been essentially at war with the United States since 1979.
And the king shall do according to his will. And he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done.
But we haven't dealt with Iran, which is the primary fomenter of terrorism in the world, and is the country that wants to go nuclear, and is the country where the leaders believe that the Mahdi, the 12th Imam, is coming and will hasten in the Messianic Muslim Golden Age. They need to create chaos to do it. So we've seen the signs there. Netanyahu's been warning for the better part of a decade that you can't let Iran go nuclear, and yet that seems to be what the world is on the verge of doing.
He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon.
Well, you know, Israeli President Shimon Peres says an attack on Iran is, quote, closer, and he says more and more likely. Do you think it will happen?
Well, I think unless Israel is prepared to live with Iran with nuclear weapons, the answer is yes, they will attack. As in the past, they attacked Syria's nuclear reactor in September of 2007 and Saddam Hussein's nuclear reactor in 1981. And let me just say, this is not hard for Israel at this point. We know where the facilities are: the uranium conversion facility at Esfahan, the uranium enrichment facility at Natanz. Esfahan is on the surface and unprotected. Natanz is buried, but IAEA inspectors have been all over it. This is within Israel's capabilities. Certainly it's true the United States could do it better. And what's also true is the more time that goes on, the greater the likelihood Iran will disperse and better protect additional duplicate facilities, which is why, in my opinion, Israel is going to need to strike soon, and in fact should have struck long ago.